And please welcome Maria Aguilar, environmental and human rights lawyer for Ambiente y Sociedad, as well as one of Global Choice's Arctic Angels.
So recently we heard the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, deliver its last report. We know that the window of opportunity to limit global rising temperatures of 1.5 degrees is passing. So we need urgent action now. We know that the current NDCs, the commitments of countries, are driving us towards a 2.7 degree warming. And this is really bad news because we're going to miss the Paris Agreement, one of the Paris Agreement goals, which is limit temperature to 2 degrees and doing our best to limit it to 1.5 degrees. So I think COP26 definitely is going to be a very historical conference of the parties. The COVID-19 pandemic made climate action be, how can I say it, like way behind. So the climate agenda is pending. We have several issues to tackle. I want to mention just a few. The first one, we need climate finance, and align financial flows towards 1.5. This means raising 100 billion each year until 2025 to be delivered to developing countries to be able to mitigate and adapt to climate change. We need to address as well loss and damage, because countries that have contributed the least to the climate crisis are being impacted the most. And this includes, of course, developing countries, small island development states. So we will have the Bahamas later on, and he can perhaps bring this issue, and we can learn from his perspective. And finally, complete the rule book of the Paris Agreement, which is the Enhanced Transparency Framework, of course, Article 6, which means carbon and non-carbon markets. And finally, common time frames. I think the first step is to recognize that youth have been revitalizing the climate movement. And many, the raising of ambition is thanks to youth movements across the world. And that's very important. We have to keep supporting them, and supporting us, because I'm young still, and amplifying the voices of those at the front lines, as my colleague mentioned. And one thing that is crucial, I think, is to know our rights and then demand our rights. And access rights play a crucial role here. We have access to information, participation, and environmental justice. And in Latin America and the Caribbean, we have a very relevant instrument that is very unique and pioneer regarding environmental democracy, and is the Escazú Agreement, which also has a specific disposition on the protection of environmental defenders. So calling for the signature and ratification of the Escazú Agreement is one simple thing that we can ask in the Latin America and the Caribbean region to make sure that the voices of those that are the front lines are taken into account, and that nobody is left behind. And this can be done, of course, with an intergenerational perspective, with a gender perspective, having into account the voice of indigenous people, local communities, and those most vulnerable. Because it's a matter of responsibility. Those generations before us perhaps failed to act on time, and some other people from older generations have walked the path already in climate activism and can guide us and help us to amplify our voices. And then we must think as well of the responsibility of us today to protect, the future of the generations yet to come. So we must have in mind this, and there are several, tools that we can use to, like a dialogue, like participate in intergenerational organizations. The NGO I work for was founded by a woman that was one of the first environmental lawyers in Colombia, and then she passed the voice to us. I'm as well part of Arctic Angels. So we have women from across ages, from different backgrounds, trying to raise awareness about the ice crisis. And so it's very important to mind that, and to recognize that, the climate crisis is a child rights crisis that involves as well the generations to come. So what we do today is not only cutting emissions, but as well, having a livable planet for the years to come.